What's up, my dudes? We got even more gameplay on MX vs. ATV Legends. So, like a few days ago, they came out with that gameplay that was a little more like just messing around on a little free ride track, right? They threw a couple whips and that was about it. But then right after that, they came out with another piece of gameplay that was like a full lap of Supercross track gameplay. I know all you guys know the exact gameplay that I'm talking about. The Roncata chooses speed or whatever the fuck, right? That's the gameplay we're talking about in this video. So we got a lot more to look at with that gameplay. A lot more information that I feel like a lot of you guys want to know about before you think about buying this game or not. So yeah, that was a big one. The video I made yesterday, I didn't really have much to run off of gameplay-wise because that was before I had even seen that Supercross gameplay. But anyways, let's get into it. First of all, we do have to give MX vs. ATV a little bit of respect here for showing us this much gameplay before the game comes out, right? You got to put a little bit of respect on the name, you know what I'm saying? Because it's like, they're not trying to hide anything, you know, it's pretty much just like, here's the gameplay, this is what it is, you can buy the game if you want to, you know, that's more of the vibe that you kind of get from it, whereas like sometimes with the milestone games, I feel like they try to hide everything a little bit more from you, they try to, you know, keep that optimism box, that hype optimism box like totally open so that a lot of people will try to buy the game not really knowing what the gameplay is going to be like, right? But this right here pretty much shows everything. I mean, the gameplay on that Supercross track pretty much shows the entire physics system, gameplay system of MX vs. ATV Legends. So, we're going to dive into her pretty deep right here. So, number one thing is, it is certainly similar to MX vs. ATV All Out. You know, some of you guys, and the reason why I'm in here playing this game and showing some gameplay on one of these Supercross tracks on All Out, is because I want some of you guys to, you know, look at that new Legends Supercross gameplay, and then look at this gameplay, and you will see a shitload of similarities. And I'm not just talking like, oh, well, of course, Spencer, you know, that was the last game that MX vs. ATV made. You know what I'm saying, bro? That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, like, more similar than it should be. Do you know what I mean? Including with the way the tracks look. You know, and this was something I was talking about way back there when we first saw that first trailer of Legends, and the Supercross tracks looked literally copy and pasted from All Out. Spency boy gonna say, what's up in the stands? Drink me a beer up in the stands. But you know what I'm saying. Those Supercross tracks looked identical. They had the little all-out trailer playing up on the screens, even on the Legends trailer of the Supercross tracks. Yikes, whoops. So, nonetheless, all I'm saying here, though, is all this time that we have went since that very first Legends trailer, and then we see this actual first real Supercross gameplay on it, the tracks really do still look super similar to the way they were in All Out. You know, there was something about when you went from, like, Unleashed to Untamed, then going to Reflex, then going to Alive. Just the graphical nature and the way that the tracks were made from game to game, it really gave you that feeling like you were going to a whole nother game, you know, and I just don't know if Legends is going to be able to fully achieve that going from All Out to Legends, right? Now, if you didn't even play All Out or you barely played it, you know, yeah, that Legends gameplay is probably going to look like something fairly new to you, but like if you go right back here to this right here, Supercross on MX vs. ATV All Out, you will realize it's really not that much different with what you're seeing with that new Supercross gameplay on Legends. So, anyways, just wanted to point that out a little bit. Obviously, they've been making some tweaks to the physics. Obviously, you know, they've got it a little more restrictive. Looks like it might have a little bit more of a weighty, like a little bit more of a heavy look to the bike, right? Which it are good things. You know, I do see some good things that they're trying to do with the physics, don't get me wrong, but my whole point is I just don't think it's going to live up to that next MX versus ATV. You know, these MX versus ATV games don't come out every single year like a milestone game does. So it's not like you can just, there's the big line, Smitty boy. You know, it's not like you can just say, well, maybe next year they'll get the physics a little better or whatever. They don't come out with these MX versus ATV games, but every, like, one in every 3 or 4 years. So you really do have to expect a little bit more out of it change-wise than you would a milestone game. You know what I'm saying? But the milestone games are a total ripoff. We all know that, okay? But point being, though, is, like, with that more development time that they have with these MX versus ATV games, I was personally expecting it to look more different, you know? Just all the way around. Now, there are some things with the physics that I think that have just not really been changed all that much. I was speaking about this in my video from yesterday with the slot car look to it, you know, just kind of that weird, I don't know, there's just something to it that I still see in that gameplay with Legends, even on that new Supercross track, where it just kind of looks like a MX vs. ATV all-out, like 0.5 or 1.5 or however the hell you want to say that, right? It's you know, just like a little bit of an advancement from MX vs. ATV all out. That's what it kind of seems like to me. It does look like they're changing, you know, some of the right things, but I just don't think they're doing enough. I don't think they're changing enough. And it's like, it seems to me like, you know, they showed a little bit of gameplay back there somewhere, and I think some of the fans got really upset, kind of shit on their social media stuff, and then they delayed the game, right? Delayed it like an extra month, and I think at this point, they're just pulling all the fucking strings they possibly can, like physics changes-wise, to try to make it look different in some kind of a way. But it seems to me like they're kind of rushing it. You know, they're kind of rushing the, you know, I don't know what kind of physics changes were made like 2 years ago. I don't know which ones were made like this month, where they're just trying to randomly change shit this month. But we'll just have to wait and see on that. But like, if you just look at certain things like in that Supercross gameplay, when they're, like when they try to hit that inside rut and the bike just has that weird, like, that weird slide out of the rut, but it's not really sliding. It's like the bike doesn't really have any realistic inertia to it almost at all. And that's something I noticed with All Out. The one big problem they have with the physics is there's too much movement once you get in the air. You know what I mean? There's too much movement once you're already in the air. Right? And yes, that is a part of arcade dirt bike games. Spencer Boy gonna pop off on that jump left and right. Like, yes, there is an element of, you know, you got to be able to move in the air a little bit, but I think if they took away that, more of that, but you got to do it in the right kind of ways, like I'm saying, you know, there's a lot to it. But yeah, the gameplay kind of looks like, I don't know, to me personally, it looks almost like you mixed like MX vs. ATV All Out with like MX vs. ATV Supercross or something like that. I don't really know. Some of the people that were saying stuff like the new Supercross gameplay kind of has some similarities to Reflex. I can't really see much of that. Maybe just a little bit. Damn, baby, all I need is a little bit, you know? Maybe there is just a little bit there, but of all the different MX vs. ATV games, Legends looks the most like MX vs. ATV All Out, and it's not even close. Like, it's very similar to All Out. You can just see it. You see the way the bike corners. You see the way the bike, yeah, they're taking away a little bit of that floaty element to it with having a little bit more of a heavy, gravitational pull to it. But, like, you can see whenever they kind of come up a little bit short on some of the rhythm section jumps, I mean, it doesn't really look like they're impacting, it doesn't really look like they're landing on something hard, or like, oh man, I clipped a triple jump landing and it like kicked my bike forward. I just don't know how much of that you're really going to see. You know what I'm saying? I just don't know exactly how much of that, right? The whips that they were throwing definitely looked bigger than the ones that they had in that gameplay before, which is interesting. I don't know what all kind of little chassis upgrades they're going to have or not have. I don't know what all is going to go into that, right? But yeah, I don't know, man. It's an interesting, weird-looking gameplay. I think a lot of people that were expecting Legends to be like this call back to home, back to more of a Reflex style feeling, I would be very careful thinking down those roads. Even when they were going through the whoop section, a really big problem with MX vs. ATV All Out's physics is sometimes when you're going through the whoops, it almost gets that weird shit where you're just totally wide open, but the bike gets to a point where it damn near just comes to a complete stop in the whoops. And I'm not talking about crashing, I'm talking about like the momentum of the game will not carry the bike forward enough to get it to glide through the whoops. And you notice that when the dude kind of slid out in that inside rut a little bit in that gameplay, and then he was trying to go through the whoops and the bike was just barely moving. That's a very interesting sign to me, somebody like me that knows all the problems that MX vs. ATV All Out had. I just see a lot of those problems in those physics of this early gameplay. I can just see those similarities, and if you really have a trained enough eye, or you've played enough of All Out, or the combination of the two rather, you can see what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying, right? So at the end of the day, I don't know. I mean, yeah, like, I just think a lot of us expected more out of Legends. And so I think that's really where a lot of the kind of disappointment comes from, I guess you could say. But like the whips, I mean, the whips that I saw in that Supercross gameplay looked way more like they did in All Out than the ones that they were throwing in the little free ride gameplay, where they just, it almost looked like they couldn't throw it all the way over or something. Like there was like this restriction to it. So I don't know, like those two different gameplays looked pretty different from each other, and that kind of threw me off a little bit, not even gonna lie to you. But yeah, I mean, definitely let me know down in the comments what you guys think about that new Supercross gameplay on Legends. I mean, obviously I'm gonna get the game, review it, play it, whatever, right? And the game will probably get updated physics-wise over the next 3 or 4 years, just like MX vs. ATV All Out did. MX vs. ATV was pretty good about staying on the updates with All Out, so maybe they'll be able to listen to some community feedback and update it some. But it just sucks that we can't get a really good base physics feeling right out of the gate, because you can only do so much with updates in a game, and that's the thing I've talked about with All Out, was it's like, yeah, it's cool that we're playing the same MX vs. ATV game for 3 or 4 years, but and they were updating it, they took a little bit of that bounciness away into the corners with the updates. They did a couple of things in there, but it gets to a point where you've kind of reached the maximum of changes you can make to the core of the physics with updating the game before you totally change the game, so I wouldn't expect like a crazy amount of stuff with that, but yeah, I just think there's so many similarities graphically to All Out, and just that overall like inertia, momentum, movement of the physics specifically, that's the part of it that I just don't think they've got. I don't think they've got it different enough from All Out to really feel like that new and improved, all new, next full-blown MX vs. ATV game. And that's the conclusion I've come to here. Yeah, it does look like they were scrubbing the bike off the jumps a little bit, which was cool. Almost looked a little bit MX vs. ATV Supercross-esque, or like Supercross Encore-esque. But yeah, boy oh boy. Don't you wish they still had that Reflex code, bro? That's all I'm going to say to that. So, yeah, it's cool. We're getting another MX vs. ATV game. Personally, I wish they would delay it until, like, December or some shit like that, you know? And put a full-blown track editor in it, and then you get all the good... The game could last like a decade, like Reflex could, but... That's not really seeming to be the vibe that they're going for here. It's just like basically another MX vs. ATV All Out, but just a little bit different, you know? So I don't think we're going to quite get that, which sucks because, like I was saying, it's not like the milestone games where you can be like, well, maybe they'll do something next year. If they don't do it right here with Legends, then you got to wait another 3 or 4 years before you might potentially get that another next better MX vs. ATV game. So that's a little bit of a cramp in the style of this MX vs. ATV Legends. I do think some of the tracks will be cool. I think the Supercross tracks of all of it is going to be the most repetitive, the most copy and pasted from MX vs. ATV All Out. It did look like they tried to change that one track a little bit that they were on, but there was kind of like a quad line, and they were kind of hucking the bike. Kind of, you could see the rider almost looking like he was seat bouncing up and down on the bike, which is cool, but I still think there is just a massive element of, like, missing realistic inertia and momentum to the game that I just think for the people that were really wanting something quite a bit different from All Out, I don't necessarily think it's going to be that. I think it's going to be like a little bit different, but not that different, you know? It's kind of what it looks like to me with that gameplay. So either way, man, appreciate you guys watching all the videos.